Good morning, beautiful souls. Happy Friday. It's Tim in the woods, and it is week 27 of the Woodland Chronicles. And today I'm stationary, and you might recognise this spot if you've been following me for a while. This is where I have been sitting for a good few years now and delivering my Fridays and my Mondays. But today I felt very guided to be in one space rather than moving. Recently I've been doing the walks and the talks, which have been in my local area, but body is calling for a bit of rest, and it's also one of the first things that I want to tune into and look at is that period of stillness and period of integration, and just very much loving the energy of where I am this morning, and almost half expecting Merlin to pop his head out of a bush, because the elementals are here, the fairies, all of the souls that work with nature. And it kind of reminds me very much of the first time that I was introduced to Merlin as my guide, and at the time I had no idea. We're talking mid to late 90s excuse me, mid to late 90s, when I was a long way away from where I am now. And I went to see a lovely lady in Bournemouth who was doing guide drawings by pencil, hand art, and she drew my guide for me at the time, and it turned out it was a guy in a cloak with a crystal ball poking his head out of a bush, or looking like he'd just come out of a bush covered in twigs. And back in those days I had no idea that was Merlin, and Merlin since always has been one of my steadfast guides and companions, but this is the kind of place where you'll find him hiding. So yeah, the stillness part of it today, there's a real energy of slow time occurring, and some of us, if not many of us, find these kind of periods maybe a little bit disconcerting. Downtime, slow time, not feeling like we're making so much incredible progress and forward movement. And there's a portal going on as well as we speak that gets me every year, because I always forget about it. And it's the Sirius portal. So it opens on the 3rd and it closes on the 7th. And it's just a 4-day intensive passageway or connection to Sirius. And Sirius A is one of the 7 suns, which is providing us with a bulk quantity of the Ascension vibrations that we receive. So we are very much integrating at the moment. The integration level for us is high, and especially after the incredible movement of the solstice. If you think about what we received around the solstice, how we celebrated it, there was planetary alignments, moons, and then just this incredible gateway. And with this incredible gateway of energy, we anchor, we receive, we work, we collaborate. I should think probably every single person around the world who's on the Ascension pathway celebrated the solstice actively, or sometimes passively. We're just aware of it. We bring the energy in, we know what's going on around us. But there was, for this year, there was a lot of physical activity and a lot of focus, a lot of intention, a lot of intention, people making plans for the future, making sure that this energy is built and constructed in an effective way. And all of a sudden, on the other side of it, boff, everything goes quiet. And it's hardly surprising that these periods can feel a little bit uncomfortable, because we've anchored in a new a new quantity and a quotient of light, and in order to assimilate that, to make the most of it, to upgrade ourselves into the space that we are intended, Sometimes we just have to slow, we have to stop, and it's not necessarily always the most comfortable place to be. But if we are aware of what's going to be happening with the energy in the immediate future, like most of us, or like we're sailing towards the Lion's Gate now, by the 23rd or the 22nd or the 23rd of July, the Lion's Gate is going to be kind of clicking into position. The sun moves into Leo, the portal begins to align with the galactic core, and we are in for a real ride this year, simply because of the designation of the energies that are due to occur and are already occurring. There have been multiple sources, including myself and my good friend David Essery, who have identified a new wave of heart awakening. Now, the first real vast wave of heart awakening that I saw or identified was in Lionsgate 2017, and there was just almost like this shockwave that went around the world, or it might have been 2017, and there was this shockwave of heart opening that went around the planet that would have activated every single heart center in alignment with the fifth dimensional core values, the unconditional love, the platform of energy that all of us are going to be living and loving by in the future. Now, a lot of people around us, as you might notice, have been not so much struggling, but I would say more in a state of resistance to what's going on the planet around us. The vibration is rising, it's unprecedented. There is no space on Earth available anywhere where you can escape these vibrations. The entire energy construction of where we live has risen in frequency, and it has done so quite unrelentingly. So there is no if you're here in physical, there's no kind of opting out, but there is, and there always has been, this level of programmed resistance that many people have due to simply just existing in the Earth reincarnation cycle in 3D for a considerable period of time. Now, it is getting increasingly difficult to be on this planet and to continue to simply stay asleep. So what we are going to witness again is another wave of awakening, and this has been described a little bit like an Ascension defibrillator. So if you can imagine a heart that's not really cooperating, it doesn't want to be, it's happier asleep, and all of a sudden there's a shock of electricity that goes into it, and the heart starts, whether it wishes to or not. Well, this is in a way the most apt description for the energies that are coming in. So there'll be people around you that receive this heart blast, and they will wake up. Now, I might have said earlier, I've just written my newsletter, and I was describing what this might look like in people. There's several kind of grades or ways that we can awaken, and that we start identifying the people around us that have awoken. Some of them immediately are on the level that we have achieved through years of learning, focus, application, diligence, and all of a sudden they're there and they can understand what we understand, and they're asking the same questions, they're talking the same language, and that power level just seems to have risen incredibly quickly. And there's other ways of displaying signs of awakening, which is the more subtle ways where people don't really kind of even realize that this has occurred in their lives. They're just carrying on the same trajectory with the same focuses or the same things that are important in their lives, but they're just doing it on a different frequency. So we're going to see a lot more of this. This is now our reality. So there will be people around you that you might have, if you're honest about it, have written off. You might have seen the way that they've acted or behaved, particularly towards you, maybe in the last 2 or 3 years or so, and say, like, well, you know, when are you ever going to see with my eyes? When are you ever going to be able to understand or see the world from a spiritual perspective? But all of a sudden they're doing it, and they're showing all of the signs of somebody who's beginning to live in accordance to the vibration of the heart. And this is a beautiful thing. Okay, we're going to be privy to this more and more over the years. Excuse me. And almost to the point where we become a little bit accustomed to it, we become a bit more used to it. And instead of being shocked by the souls around us that have awoken, we're just going to accept this simply because it is now an aspect of our life on this planet. And another thing I want to talk about as well is how we deal with the increased efforts of, say, the 3D matrix to keep us bogged down in a state of fear. And this is a subject that I've covered a couple of times, because there's we can see this going on around the world in quite a few ways, this anger that has burst through people. And this is also another sign of having woken up, is active resistance to the oppressor. And this comes forward as anger, rage, and is expressed in a way which is very, very visible. It makes the news headlines, it's cultured, it's actually in a way it's created almost deliberately to keep the vibration on that platform. How do we avoid that living on this planet? Because we have to be practical and we have to be grounded in our approach to what we're doing here on the Ascension process, because we are part of this world. There is no evading that. There's no escaping that. Yes, we might gather together in our very sacred groups, but then we return in some way, shape or form to be to kind of calibrate into this reality around us. And it's becoming increasingly triggered. Now this triggering, dare I say it, it's going to increase. I think when you activate a wave of heart awakening, one of the first responses, and this is what I saw in 2017 and 2018, when a heart is awoken from its state of slumber, when it is pulled away from the comfort of the ego, okay, and moved into a state where it has to align with the fifth dimensional frequencies. And you'll probably recall what happened to you, or something that you might personally be experiencing at the moment. There is an immediate response. There is an immediate gateway to move through, an initiation, and it's called a dark night of the soul. Okay, so immediately this occurs, and there's no kind of warning. There's no kind of period of grace. It's straight in there. And so what we are collectively witnessing at the moment is dark nights being expressed. They are being thrown out there as part of the field of expression of anger, suppression, and the rage that has been built up, and also the indignance that many feel for the increasing level of control that is being applied. But as I've spoken about many times before, that is not an energy that will carry us through to the fifth dimension. It is absolutely acceptable to be expressed in the short term, to be witnessed, to be acknowledged, to be identified, to in many cases to be felt, not suppressed. But then it has to return back to its fifth dimensional core values. So this can't be something that we build the next phase upon, taking back space or ground through anger. It has to be done via the heart center, which is via love. So when we're being kind of cajoled or provoked and in many cases taken advantage of, and we can see very, very clearly now what is causing this, as opposed to not being able to see the cause of it so clearly previously, how do we respond from a point of heart-centeredness? And again, this is one of our many initiations. This is what you and I have been trained so fastidiously for over the years. And one of the first things that I talked about in 2020 was loving non-compliance. So non-compliance with the things that are which are out of alignment with the natural laws, but done in a loving way. So you simply decide that something is not for you, okay? And it's as simple as this, okay? If something is working out of alignment with your morals, with your heart, with what you know is right, okay, we're long past the stage of actually doing it because we have to, all right? As light workers standing in our mastery and our sovereignty, if something is out of alignment, we simply do not do that. We stick to our core values, what we know is correct, what is right, what is in alignment with divine will, with the universal laws. Anything that's working out of alignment with the universal laws, anything that is going against the will of Source, will eventually just be dissolved, okay? And all of these new structures that are being built by what we regard as the 3D matrix, they rise and they disintegrate and fall pretty much as quickly as they are constructed, and this is going on all of the time. We can see it occurring. So in the meantime, as this wave of heart awakening is going on around the planet, we're going to be privy, very possibly, to an increased level we're going to experience and see and maybe feel a much more triggered field. The field around us is going to be lit up, and it is going to be filled with the emotional expressions of people that are just beginning to realize what is actually on the other side of the veil. So, my lovely souls, it's going to be down to us to anchor that light in, to hold our lines with very strong boundaries, with grounded compassion. You might be having to extend these boundaries to people immediately around you. You might be, as a light worker, as somebody who works in the field, be having to set new boundaries for yourself, because your needs are changing at the moment. You are becoming more refined, you're becoming more in tune with yourself. You are not going to stay the same, you are going to change. Your needs are going to alter, and as you honour the inner child, as you begin to love yourself or remember how to love yourself more and more, your needs will change. Okay, so your priorities, the way that you treat yourself, the way you love yourself, that bar will continuously be rising. So you will be having to set new boundaries all the time. And so anchoring yourself in at the moment into your heart, into your mighty I am presence, into your sovereignty, is what is being expected of us at the highest level, what we are expecting from ourselves, what your highest version of you is saying to you at this moment of time, is to show up in your absolute shiniest, brightest form and anchor that light in. If you are presented with something that does not align with your core values, with your heart center, you do not comply with it, okay? But you comply lovingly, or you sorry, I got that wrong. There is non-compliance from a loving standpoint. So we no longer regard the rules or laws of man as applicable to us if they are not in alignment with universal law. We've got our own code book, and that is going to be coming through very strongly, particularly for the second half of the year and very much in the future, as we are building this fifth dimensional and very much golden structure that we are all part of. It's, as I've said many times, the most incredible time to be alive. So things to look forward to. This almost electrified shockwave of heart opening, and some of you might already be experiencing this yourselves. Many of us won't even notice this occurring. Others of us who might have built up a few more barriers over the last few incarnations, whatever we've agreed to experience, might actually feel that ourselves. The heart opens further. The fifth dimensional heart center is beginning to merge very much with the higher heart, the thymus, and all of that aspect. So what would have appeared a couple of years ago as two separate chakras, the thymus or the higher heart, has opened quite recently, and it is between the throat and the heart. That's all becoming part of the fifth dimensional heart center. So it's adding the beautiful aquamarine color to the white, the gold, the pink of the fifth dimensional heart center, which is an enormous power core. It's what's driving us all forwards on this ascension pathway. So stay and stand in the light at all times, and I'm sure that we will have plenty of opportunities to be tested on our groundedness and our self-assuredness. And there are so many of us all now working in this mighty I Am presence that it's the field couldn't be bigger. It couldn't be more supportive. So if you're feeling alone out there at the moment, you're not. Just tune into the field, allow it to support you while you are going through whatever you have chosen to go through. And on that note, I'm going to bid you all a beautiful weekend. And whatever time of day you're listening to this, when you listen to it, enjoy the last day of the Sirius port. Like I say, it always catches me unawares. It's that period of time where I just imagine there's more downtime than there is. In actual fact, there's an enormous portal of light pouring into this planet at this time. So, beautiful souls, I will see you again. Sending you all so much love. Bye for now.